The Amazing Digital Circus is the latest in esoteric cartoon mysteries coming to indie animation, and one big detail I missed in the first episode is that the character Caine seems to get his name from the company that created the program he lives in, with Pomni finding a logo that says C and A, which, with Caine already being an established character in the show, made fans assume that the A stood for Abel. Cain and Abel, of course, being biblical references, but also potentially two humans in the show who created the Digital Circus game. Why was this AI named after Cain, and what exactly happened to Abel? My name is Deepcut, subscribe for more Digital Circus theories, and let's dive into it. But before we jump into all that, I made an indie animated web pilot for all of you indie animation fans. It's called The Magical Girl Garnet Heart Show, and combines the tropes of Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball, and Digimon into webisodes that still maintain fun fight scenes and dramatic moments, while aiming to give a few laughs.
Let's keep things simple, you know? Rescue some cats stuck in some trees or something.
The cat's in a tree, it's because we want to be there. Leave us the fuck alone.
Click in the corner to watch, or stay tuned until the end of this video for more previews, and use the link in the pinned comment down below. Hope to see you guys there. The Amazing Digital Circus is premised on 6 humans being trapped in a strange virtual reality game, all run by a twisted being known as Caine. Caine appears to be an AI built into the game, with the original teasers on YouTube explaining that the story was of 6 humans, with Pomni of course being the 6th human in the cast, and Caine being the AI. Some people didn't see this and other promotional materials explaining that Caine is an artificial intelligence, but the most obvious proof is of course in his name. Caine's name is a play on several things. C-A-N-E spells Caine, as in the one he has as part of his circus ringleader outfit. By adding an I and spelling it C-A-I-N-E, you now have AI, or artificial intelligence, hidden in the name. As a real-life name, Cain, spelled C-A-I-N, is also famous from the Bible. Adam and Eve are presented as the first humans in the book of Genesis, with Eve giving birth to 2 sons, the first being Cain, who was a farmer, and then to Abel, who was a shepherd. A lot of fans thought my theories discussing Cain as a Bible reference was a bit out there. However, many fans noticed that when Pomni is exploring the endless hallways, she saw a logo that appeared very familiar to her, a simple C and A. Now this logo and the hallway were reminiscent of the real office we saw at the end of the episode, when we finally zoom past the void to see that they are all trapped in a video game, which is why Pomni seems to recognize it despite not having any of her memories. It was something she saw and perhaps knew well before entering the game. I could not for the life of me figure out what the logo was trying to say at that time, but a lot of fans noticed that the C would be an obvious reference to Cain, and thus A would be Abel. But if this is Cain in the game, and there is a real Cain too perhaps, what exactly happened to Abel? The story of Cain and Abel in the Bible is very complex when you begin to look at its layers and history, but on the surface it's very simple. Cain was a farmer and Abel was a shepherd, as I explained. God favored the sacrifices of Abel, but not of Cain. Out of jealousy, Cain went and killed Abel in the fields where his flock was grazing. Cain lied to God about knowing what happened to Abel, and this angered God. God punished Abel by forcing him to wander the earth, and gave him a special mark so that no one would kill him in his travels. Now in the show, Cain really does seem to be an AI programmed into a video game, but I believe the game itself was made by 2 men named of course Cain and Abel. They seem to have built a company around virtual reality, creating fun games similar to Kid Pix that you can plug your consciousness right into. With the 6 humans trapped there, this has terrifying implications as to what may have happened to Abel. While we don't see the human Cain and Abel at all in the show, at least so far, the presence of Cain in the game without Abel seems to indicate that Abel may have met the same fate in the show as he did in the biblical story, with Cain killing Abel. Perhaps the true Cain had jealousy over Abel's contributions to the game, but instead of Cain just killing Abel, perhaps Cain forcibly pushed his consciousness into the game as a way to trap him, leaving Cain to get all the praise and money for the game's final product. This would have made Abel one of the first prisoners in the game, perhaps the first to get abstracted, with his entire existence being controlled by an AI named after the older brother who trapped him there. Now, for those who didn't see my first video, I'll link it down below, but there is a lot of mythology there that becomes even more relevant with the revelation that there does appear to be an Abel in the Digital Circus story. The premise of the Amazing Digital Circus is very Gnostic. Gnosticism was a philosophical movement from the early centuries of Christianity that focused on very complex pattern-based stories involving Jesus and other divine beings, meant to guide the reader into thinking in increasingly complex ways. These stories featured expansions of the biblical narratives, revealing twists on the original stories. For instance, while Jesus is still presented as the ultimate Messiah and son of the original Creator God, that original Creator God is presented as being in a state of sleep, with Jesus being the only active agent of his in every dimension. The God of our physical world, the one we read about in the Old Testament, is presented as a villain, however, an ignorant being known as the Demiurge who doesn't know that there is a higher spiritual being above him that is outside his power of perception. Humans were not some innocent creation of this Demiurge in the Gnostic text, but were actually made from the trapped light of a higher being, generally named Sophia, which is Greek for wisdom. In these Gnostic stories, the Earth is presented as a sort of flawed shadow of the more whole and complete spiritual realms. The lives of humans are dominated by a Demiurge who loves how the spirit of wisdom animates our bodies so he can watch us react to all the trials and tribulations he gives us as a species. This is eerily similar to the setup of the digital circus, with Caine being a sort of god of the digital world, in the way that the Demiurge is the god of the physical world, both not being able to comprehend the greater reality that exists outside of their bubble. If Caine trapped Abel in the game, that would make Abel like Sophia, a divine figure trapped in a lower realm, unable to get out without getting the secrets of the universe first and perhaps finding an exit. Of course, Abel would only be the first of seemingly many people who would get sucked into the game, and then later become abstracted. Perhaps this is by accident, with all the characters getting into the game innocently, or on purpose, with all the characters being a victim of the real-world Cain. This being his prison where he puts people when they get too close to the truth of what he did to Abel and others after him. This would make the show all the more interesting, as it would make the game a literal prison that the characters were forced into, instead of all just innocently putting on the wrong headset and then having their consciousness lost. Now, all of this begs the question of who is actually Abel in the show, as that has to have significance down the road. I mentioned before that as the first person there, Abel may be among the many abstracted that we see Kaufmo join in the dark abyss below the digital circus. However, this would make it hard for Abel to be relevant to the story, and I instead think that Kinger himself may be Abel. Kinger is an interesting character because his insanity gives him a double layer of memory loss, with the others only having one. While this is played for laughs and everyone suffers from memory loss so wouldn't remember who they were before the game, it leaves a lot of mystery to unravel about Kinger's early experiences in the digital circus before he started to lose his mind. Kinger is well known in the show as the most senior member, but he seemed to go mad long before any of the others showed up, while still maintaining his form. If he was Abel, one of the designers of this game, he would likely understand how to maintain his form longer than anyone else, even if he begins to go insane. However, some people have noticed that Kinger isn't as insane as the characters treat him. One commenter noted that he seems almost psychic, talking about insects before we later see the giant Gloinks insect, knowing about Kaufmo losing his mind before the others, and later asked Zubul if they saw a game show inside of the Gloinks Queen. As the commenter explains, this appears to be a reference to what happens in another Gooseworks production called Runmo, an animated short film about a video game character exploring why he keeps dying. About halfway in, he gets eaten by a giant buggy-looking monster and comes out the other side in a weird game show, such as Kinger was asking Zubul about. All of this says that Kinger knows more than he lets on and seems to understand the game on a deeper level than the others. However, if Kinger is Abel, it doesn't really explain who this queen is, or the other abstracted characters with portraits on the wall, but I have a video coming out about that soon, so hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Don't forget to watch my new show, The Magical Girl Garnet Heart, using the box on the left. I'll see you guys there.